You'll want to have some room to be able to move around just a little bit. We'll be seated the whole time. We might move into a couple different positions seated. You'll want to have your journal at the very end. I will offer some journaling prompts to kind of anchor in the whole experience. So having a journal would be good. Having some water would be good. Welcome everyone. So good to see everyone's faces. Beautiful. All the warriors in the house. So many of you are also going to Costa Rica with us.
In like 2 months.
Yeah, that's happening
in like 2 days. We're 2 months away. That's so crazy.
All right. Just another minute and we'll get started. So just to talk a little bit about embodiment, why we use embodiment, what embodiment is. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to be focusing this evening on the reclamation of self. And what that really means to me, it might mean something different to you, but what it means to me is reclaiming all parts of myself. Because for so many years, I can say from myself, I've denied emotions, I've denied parts of myself, I've denied feeling and being in my fullest expression. And when we deny our feelings and our emotions, or we push them down, we're denying parts of ourselves. We're denying our full expression. So in this practice, we're gonna move through, it's gonna be kind of a journey. We'll move through a journey of revisiting some moments in our lives where maybe we've pushed down emotions, and also some really amazing moments where you felt alive and you felt most like yourself, and just revisiting that to allow ourselves to sink in and really, really experience what that is. And so I'll invite you to and cue you through some different embodiment practices. And that just means using our breath, sound, and movement. So I'll guide you through different breath activations, breath work, and different ways we can use our body to really help ourselves feel the full effect of this practice, feel the full effect of your emotions and your aliveness. And so as I guide us through and I invite you to do these different techniques and movements and breath and sound, the invitation is for you to do as much as feels good for you. Sass is really trying to be in this. So do as much as feels good for you. So if it feels like too much, if it's your first time doing embodiment, I've had people say they get dizzy, or it can just feel a little bit weird, and that's normal. The sensations, the tingling, that's all normal. So my invitation is go up into it feels too uncomfortable, and you can back down a little bit and just come back to a meditative state, and then meet us again when you feel comfortable. So does that feel good? Anyone have any questions? Feeling good? Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. So coming into a meditative seat, we can cross your legs and just place your hands facing up on your knees, closing down the eyes. And as you close down the eyes, allow your awareness to go inward. And let's start at the heart space. So closing down the eyes and bring all the awareness to your heart space. On your inhale, imagining you're opening the heart is expanding. You might feel an expansion in your chest. On the exhale, just soften, relax, really bring all that awareness to the heart space. Maybe the shoulders drop. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, relax, soften, release. Inhale all your awareness to the heart space. The chest expands, the heart opens. Exhale, everything softens. So just stay with this breath. This practice, you're going to be practicing allowing. Maybe you've never been told that you are allowed, that you're allowed to feel. Maybe you haven't been told this enough. So sink into the feeling now of allowing. You needed to be told this when things were broken, when you were broken, when your heart hurt. You felt your deepest heartache. No one told you that you could simply just feel it. Instead, we were taught to hide, to deny, to abandon ourselves, to abandon our feelings, to push down the pain, run from the pain. So instead of comforting it, we ignored our feelings. We didn't know any better. But we now know that our bodies are here to guide us, to teach us. We don't have to abandon them anymore. We can allow them. Begin sinking into that feeling of allowing. In your heart space, breathe in. Exhale, sink into allowing. This evening, we're going to work on allowing that feeling, allowing the intelligence of our feeling to take its rightful place in our body. We're going to give ourselves the permission to thaw out all the emotions that are stuck in there. We're going to allow vulnerability to have a voice, to take its throne. And we're going to give ourselves back to ourselves. So on your next inhale, we're going to invite a twist in. So you're going to inhale, arms come up. Exhale, twist to the right. Okay, here for your next inhale. Exhale, twist a little deeper. Inhale, come back to center, arms come up. Exhale, twist to the left. Stay here for your next inhale. Exhale, twist a little deeper. And inhale, come back to center. Your hands are just resting on your knees again, and you're gonna invite in, it's called a soupy grind. So on your inhale, you're gonna come forward, chest expands. Exhale, round the back. Inhale, coming forward, chest is open. Exhale, round the back. This is really, really slow. We're starting slow, sinking into the allowing. Let your body really guide you. And on your next inhale, I want you to open the jaw, open the mouth. Exhale, keep the mouth open. So you're opening the jaw, and this allows you to release the jaw. You hold a lot of tension in the jaw. So opening it really releases tension in the whole body. You can switch directions if you haven't already. Begin to just feel your whole body breathing. Begin to feel your aliveness. Dropping out of the mind into the body where your aliveness lives. And just begin to wander with the body and look for that current of grace, that current of peace within you. It's running through the body. Maybe it's a little bit small today, maybe it's overflowing, but can you find with your awareness that current of grace within your body and allow yourself to enter this space of peace, of grace, of stillness, of allowing. Just continue moving just like that. You can let it be intuitive, bring the neck into it, and it's still really slow, really soft, really deep, long breaths. Begin to find some stillness, and I'm going to invite you to place one hand over your heart, one hand over your lower belly. I'm going to invite you to recall a memory. So can you remember the first time that you stopped yourself from feeling? Maybe it was the first time that someone told you not to cry, to stop crying. Maybe they told you to calm down or be strong, and you stopped yourself from feeling what was happening in your body. You made yourself hold back. Maybe anger came up and you pushed it back down. Can you recall a memory? Now, can you remember a time where you began to cope rather than living? You began coping rather than actually being in the aliveness. So maybe for you that looked like numbing the pain, distracting yourself from the feelings, suppressing the feeling, suppressing any emotions that wanted to be shown. You were coping rather than. Maybe a memory from last week comes up, maybe from your childhood, but just be with that memory, allowing it to resurface. Now can you bring a memory to your awareness, left your heart, where you stopped living from your heart space. You stopped leading from your heart, maybe to make someone else feel happy or feel comfortable. You sacrificed yourself to make them feel comfortable. That feeling of disassociating, that feeling of wanting to run, that feeling of being frozen in your body. What was it that made you feel like you weren't safe to live? You might have a couple memories in your awareness. You might have one memory. It might be one person in your memory. Whatever it is for you is perfect. We're going to do a practice now to help clear that out, to help dissolve the charge of that. That energy is still stuck in your body as stuck emotion, stuck energy. So this practice we're going to do is going to help really heat up the body to help release all of that. Let that emotion, that time you suppressed and kept it in, let it really release. What we're going to do is breath of fire, and we're going to do it with our hands up. So your hands are going to look like this. Thumbs are out. Hands are like this, and your arms are straight up like this, kind of like a V. And breath of fire, we're gonna breathe. It's like pumping your stomach. So it's gonna look like this. So it's a forced exhale all through the mouth. And then the inhale is kind of like, you're not really paying too much attention to the inhale. It's a soft inhale. So again, it looks like this. And the stomach is pumping. So on the exhale, the stomach pumps in, contracts in. We're gonna do this for 60 seconds, starting now. Hands come up, breathe in deeply, exhale, and begin. Go at a bit of a slower pace, if that feels better to you, or fast like I'm going. And really, really make sound on the exhale. You're dispelling all of that stuck emotion, that memory from your brain. A little bit longer, 20 seconds. Five more seconds. Inhale deeply, let the hands rest at the knees. Exhale. Letting out a sound on the exhale. Allowing the body to surrender, allowing more surrender. You might feel tingles or some sensations or your heart opening. All of that is perfect. Allowing the eyes to close back down. Allowing the breath to just move down. Becoming long and fluid. Coming back to your center, back to your heart space. The heart space is ungrounded, uncentered, out of your body. Come back to the heart. Let your heart be your anchor. Now I'm going to invite you to go back to younger self. Going back to a time where you were young and you really just had that playful, carefree energy. Maybe you picture yourself on a swing set or running through a field. A time when you were young. It was like this carefree energy. You were just a new sprout of life. You had so much life in you. No one had hurt you yet. You hadn't felt any real pain yet. It was just this curious, playful, carefree energy. That vibrant child within you. We're gonna start to incorporate aura sweep. So the hands start at the ground and then you just sweep up. On the inhale, exhale, hands come to heart center. And then again, inhale, arms come up all the way overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. And as you're doing this movement, eyes are closed, breath is deep. And imagine that you're just calling this part of you, this child within you, this vibrant, carefree child within you, you're calling them home. You're integrating them back into you. Inhale, hands come up. Exhale, hands come to heart center. You're gathering all of that beautiful, childlike, playful, young energy and bringing it back to your heart space, bringing it back to you, back to your current version of you. Now in your next exhale, keep the hands at heart center. Really let all that energy just rest here at the heart. Now begin to think of a time where you felt most alive. A time where you felt most like yourself. So maybe it was last week, maybe it was last month, maybe it was a year ago. And let that memory of that aliveness, that moment where you just felt so alive, so in your body, so in your power, letting it just arrive. Really letting it arrive fully into the body. Feel those sensations, those emotions that you felt in that moment, feel them now in your body. Maybe you feel a bit of surrender, a bit of relaxation, excitement maybe. Maybe your spine sits up straighter, your shoulders relax. It feels so good to be in that memory. And start the aura sweeps again, sweeping the arms up on the inhale, and then down to the heart space on the exhale, and integrating this memory, all of your aliveness, all of you, back into your current being, gathering it all up, bringing it into the heart space. Knowing that you're allowed to express, you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to be too much. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to feel whatever is present for you, and that's how you come into your aliveness, not by suppressing or pushing it down. You're allowed to relish in your pleasure. You're allowed to wallow in your pain. You're allowed to be who you were born to be. And again, on the next exhale, just allowing the hands to stay at the heart center. Feeling all of that integrate, all of your aliveness integrate. And come back again to that current of grace within you. Maybe it's become more like a river and it's flowing more freely within you now. Maybe it's still a little bit hard to find that current of grace within. With both hands over your heart, begin to open yourself a little bit more to this current moment, this now moment. And with the next inhale, I want you to imagine that you're drawing in energy from the earth. So this healing, nurturing, motherly, nourishing energy, grounding energy from the earth, and you are breathing it all the way up into your body. And on the top of the inhale, hold the inhale. So it's like you're really holding this energy, activating this life force energy, and then exhale, it's a surrendered, softened, relaxed. It's almost like you're like falling into your body on the exhale. So breathing in from the ground, from the earth, all the way into the body. hold it, feel that life force, and then exhale. Continue just like this. You're activating your life force energy. You can even place your hands on your body and move around on your arms, on your legs, and help this energy really spread through your whole body. So inhale, breathe that energy in. Hold it at the top. Exhale. Spread it around with your hands. Moving the hands through the chest. Inhale, breathing the energy up. I like to run my hands up from my stomach up to my chest and really help build the energy, bring it up. Hold it at the top, exhale. Continuing just like that. You can either say out loud or in your mind, I am allowing the great currents of my feeling sensations to be a part of me, not apart from me. Again, either out loud or in your mind. I am allowing the great currents of my feeling sensations to be a part of, not apart from me. I am allowing the great wisdom of my brokenness and feeling of disconnect to help guide and instruct me. Letting the body move however it wants now, maybe swaying or moving through the hips. Letting the fingertips run through the chest or the upper arms. So bringing that surrender, that allowing intention to actually drop into the body. So it's no longer just staying in the mind, it's letting the body feel it. Saying out loud or in your mind, when the pain comes, I will listen. When the pain comes, I will listen. I will make space to be the ear of my pain. Make space to be the ear of my pain. I am allowed to be in all the ways I need without shame or embarrassment. I am allowed to be in all the ways I need without shame or embarrassment. This is how I set myself free. This is how I reclaim myself. Now we're gonna invite in what's called butterfly hearts. So arms are out to a T. What's a T? Okay, so inhales where we expand. Exhale, draw the arms in. And you round through the back as well. So inhale, it's expanding through the chest. Exhale. Inhale, open, expand. Exhale, round, curl. And continue just like that. Sometimes the problem is resisting the problem. Sometimes the problem is actually our resistance. And so when we lean into the body and we allow in this way, we're allowing ourselves to be with our experience. And that's when the change happens. When we can be with what is, the pattern of resistance goes away. Our autopilot starts to go away. As we're given the chance to create a new pattern, create a new autopilot. When we just allow ourselves to feel the thing, that's when the state becomes different. That's when our experience becomes different. On the next inhale, just allowing allowing the hands to just rest on the knees. Palms are facing up, resting on the knees. Breathing deeply. Just by noticing yourself in this moment, you are setting yourself free. You're allowing life to expand and become more alive just by this practice of noticing. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be the master at all emotions. We just can notice them. And we can be present with them. The now is where our power lives. The now is where our power lives. We try to push away and try to suppress. We're running from ourselves. Let's come up to our knees, sitting on the knees. We're actually going to take the knees out wide. You're sitting on your ankles. Knees are out wide. Eyes are closed, and just allow the spine to find some movement here. It doesn't have to look pretty, it doesn't have to look perfect. Just bring some fluidity to the spine, neck. Inhale, you can expand forward. Exhale, roll back. Starting really slow. Really exaggerated movement. You're creating space in the body. So when we say create space to feel, this is what it means in the body to create space. Create space in the body for the emotions, for the feelings, for the pain and the bliss, for the hurt and the fear and the pleasure and the love, all to coexist. And we're living in the frozen state, tight state of suppressing and being afraid of actually feeling, literally like this compressed, tense way of our body. So opening through the chest, rolling through the back. On the exhale, make the sound ha, and let it come from deep in the womb space, deep in the belly. Ha. Wiggle through the hips. Really let that sound release. Just continue moving just like that. And the shifting of our perspective. Just a simple shift of our perspective. It's into this perspective of allowing and accepting. So when the emotion of fear comes, when the emotion of anxiety, when the emotion of just self-hatred, whatever it is for you comes, we don't have to stay still. We don't have to hide from it. We can expand through the body and feel the full spectrum of the emotion. Allow it to move through you. Look at the emotion, feel the emotion, be with the emotion. And in doing this, we're building our inner peace. We're building acceptance and allowance in our body, in our experience. We're fostering the peace and love on the inside, and then that has a ripple effect and it shows up on the outside in the world around us, the things we attract into our lives, the people that come into our lives, our relationships, the way we're able to communicate, hearing our internal guidance, hearing our intuition. We're able to trust ourselves. This is the power of inner acceptance, of being with the emotion. Being in the eye, the calm of the storm within the emotion rather than the storm of the emotion. expression and feeling is your freedom. Next time something knocks at your door, something surfaces that demands your attention, bow to it. Come into your heart. Ask it what it ask it how it wants to move, what it sounds like. Maybe it needs to kick and scream. Maybe it wants to be held. This is how we long to be loved. In this way, all of us, the full us. This is how we first love, how we first learn to love ourselves. That we can accept that. We can accept love from others. First, becoming in full acceptance of ourselves, loving ourselves so fully that we can then accept that fully from others. So again, one hand over the heart, one hand over the lower belly. Inhale, expand the chest forward. Breathe in, all of you. Breathe in your aliveness. Exhale, roll back. Making the ha sound. Exhale, anything that is not you, anything that is not serving you. Inhale, come forward, expand. Breathe in your aliveness. Invite yourself in. Exhale, roll back. Ha. Inhale, expanding, opening the heart. Exhale, ha, releasing. And you can bring the knees closer together now. So the knees are touching, and bring the hands behind your back. So interlace the fingers, arms behind your back, and we're just gonna bow forward. So bring your head, your third eye to the ground. Maybe your arms come up, or maybe they just rest at your lower back. Whatever feels more right for you in this moment. Just breathe here, be here. It's a way of sealing the practice, as a way of sealing this acceptance of your full self. It's a way of being reborn into acceptance. Letting out any last sounds that want to be released. Witness, felt. You can begin to rock side to side to bring a little bit of a massage to the forehead, to the third eye. Again, just as much as feels. Massage of Mother Earth. Giving her some love. Any last sounds, letting them come from the deep within your womb, deep within your guts. Keeping the eyes closed, beginning to rise. Keep the arms behind you, or you can use the hands to help you rise up, and just feel into this rebirth. Feel what it feels like to be nowhere else to be, nowhere to run to. Nothing to push away. There's nowhere to be here. Wrap your hands around your arms. Giving yourself a hug. Gently caress your arms with your fingertips. One more time, just expand through the chest. Slow expanding of the chest. Let the head fall back. The fingertips are wide, spreading out wide, opening to all that love. And come back and just let your spine rest upright, and let the hands rest on the thighs. Few breaths here to just let everything integrate, feeling all those tingles, anything that's come up, anything that still wants to be seen and witnessed. I'm going to invite you to grab your journal. So you can open your eyes, just blink them open, slowly gather your journal. Take a sip of water. And the first prompt that I will extend to you is, what is your first memory of distracting yourself rather than feeling? So that first memory you have of when you chose to run from it rather than feel it, or maybe someone said to you, don't cry, be strong, calm down. What is that first memory for you? Maybe you were a child and it just felt like too much. You chose not to feel it, you chose to numb, you chose to distract yourself, keep yourself busy. If that's not coming up for you, maybe the first time you felt shame or embarrassment around feeling, around an emotion. Just start to describe the memory in your journal. Just write anything you remember. It doesn't have to be the perfect remembrance of this memory. Whatever you remember from it. Who was there? What did it feel like? How old were you? What was the emotion? What was the feeling? Yes, Lindsay, I'll repeat it for you. The journaling prompt is, what is your first memory of distracting yourself rather than feeling? So when you chose to numb an emotion or distract yourself rather than feeling, or that first time someone told you, don't cry, so you held it back. First memory. The second prompt is, write about a time where you felt most alive or most like yourself. So a memory where you felt most alive, most like yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be the perfect remembrance of it, but what did it feel like? Where were you? What were you surrounded by? What did it feel like to feel most like yourself? To feel so alive? Be as descriptive as you can. Tune into your senses. What did you see? What did you smell? What did you feel? What colors, sensations, emotions? Yes, I can repeat that one. Write about a time where you felt most alive, most like yourself. The last one we're going to do. So this is going to be a promise, a commitment you're making to yourself. So how can you commit to allowing more of yourself to be felt, to allowing more of your fullness to be, not toning it down or only letting parts of yourself express or be seen? So make a commitment to yourself. How can you allow yourself to be more of you? Maybe it's a simple practice. Maybe it's in the way you communicate or set boundaries. Can you commit to yourself? Allow more of you to be expressed. Maybe it's practicing coming into your body for 10 minutes a day. You can be more with your emotions. It's a commitment, and make it attainable. Make it something that you'll really do. Nothing too crazy. Be realistic. Maybe it's in a specific area of your life, maybe in your work where you want to show up more fully as yourself. Maybe in your relationship, you feel like you tone yourself down, or you want to tell your partner when you're feeling down, but you don't want to ruin the mood. Think about what's present for you. Where do you often hide, suppress yourself? Okay, so we're going to open the space for sharing There's no pressure here. It's just if you feel like you'd like to, I feel like sharing really helps to fully anchor in and integrate the experience. So maybe you'd like to share what you wrote in your journal through the prompts, or just what you experienced through the embodiment practice. Um, Anything that's on your heart. All of you is welcome. There's no right or wrong. Again, there's no pressure, but like to share, then the floor is open. And we just do it popcorn style. So as you feel you would like to share, you can unmute and share.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one thing that I journaled about is really when something that I want to commit to is whenever I'm feeling anxious or upset or frustrated, instead of like trying to numb it with like technology or a TV and just trying to push that feeling away, to just tell myself, all right, maybe, or before I go to that coping mechanism, just try 5 minutes of meditation or embodiment and see how I feel after that. And not being like, okay, I have to go sit down and do an hour of this instead of, watching my TV show, which is way easier, but just starting like, okay, just start with 5 minutes and see how I feel. If I still feel, if that doesn't help one single bit, then I'll give myself permission to go watch TV. But obviously even 5 minutes would help. So I think just giving myself that attainable goal of saying, okay, just starting with 5 minutes, and before I allow myself to go to any other coping mechanism.
Totally. I love that. 5 minutes like goes so far in meditation or embodiment. Like you can totally shift your experience, and then maybe you feel better and then go watch your TV show. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're like sit down and you're all like anxious or whatever watching the TV show, that's a totally different experience. So I love that.
Yeah.
And then I'm not able to actually release that, and then it's gonna still linger. And so
Totally.
Exactly. Yeah. Love that. Thanks, Mary.
Yes. Thanks for sharing, Mary. I feel like Luke is gonna share. Kira.
I'll go. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear
Kira,
me okay?
you go first.
Hi.
Hi. We can
You
hear
can't hear me? Okay. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. I'm sorry. My internet down here is so awful. Yeah, so that was lovely. I wanted to just share like a lot of memories came up for me in the meditation. Just like random ones. And I always find that to be some of the most healing, because I'm like, well, why the hell did I just recall that random memory? Even if it was mean, like even if it had really no context, it was just, that was really cool. And what I wanted to share is like, it's funny, before I get into what I wrote, I did my yoga teacher training like 10 years ago. And so like we do similar like embodiment stuff in yoga. It's kind of similar, but like, I don't know, up until recently, like I feel like until you guys, I didn't really consider it. I didn't put a name to it. I didn't really realize what embodiment was, truthfully. And so it's funny because for so many years I would just lay on my mat and do just that. I would just intuitively kind of move and do all the things. And I always kind of shamed myself. I'm like, Kira, you really should be doing a real yoga practice. And it's like, now I'm starting to realize that like, I shamed myself in an area where I was actually doing the work and I somehow made it wrong or like not enough. So that was a fun thing that came up for me. As well as what I really wanted to share was when you prompted the first memory of destructing self, like I have a huge tendency to self-destruct or like self-sabotage. And like the first thing that kept coming to mind was like me being a young kid and how like I would get told things like stop crying or stop this or stop that, and I would get more frustrated and I would cry more. And my initial tendency as a kid, I was always the one that lashed out because I was so freaking emotional and I didn't know how to deal with it. Clearly nobody did, but I would always turn to anger. I would punch things, I would throw things, I would scream, I would literally release in any way that I felt like I could. And I even had memories of like threatening to hurt myself to my parents because I just wanted to feel seen and heard. And I felt like that is how I was going to receive that energy. So just like complete self-destructive behavior. And though I knew I had that tendency in my adult life, I feel like I finally just made the connection with my like inner child a little bit. And then, yeah, and then I was going to say that the time I felt the most alive and the most like myself was when I was in my yoga teacher training and I was healing and, you know, feeling really open and flowy. And that was just like a really good time of life. So, yeah. And how I can allow myself to be more of me is definitely holding better boundaries, clear communication, which we've been totally working on so much. And just continuing to come back into my body every time I get like lost in the sauce of my mind, which is always, and starting to move from that place because I've been spending too much time in my head. And one thing that I've also been really wanting to incorporate more of in my day-to-day is more eye gazing with myself and looking at myself in the mirror while speaking affirmations, because it's just something that feels really powerful to me. And I'm like, I should be doing this more often. I feel like it's just a really powerful way to connect to myself. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you, Kiara.
Yeah.
Those are big connections, like
Yeah.
the dots that just connected just now. That's really that's big.
I love what you shared about feeling like what you were doing on your mat was wrong because it like wasn't an actual yoga flow, but
totally.
the fact
we do that to ourselves all the time. Like all the time. You hear it all the time, even from yoga students who were like, I'm bad at yoga, I'm not good at yoga. And every single time I hear that, I just want to be like, that's not possible. It's not possible to be bad at it. So I love that. Like we do that to ourselves all the time, saying, you know, assuming that it has to look a certain way. Like not even when it comes to embodiment and yoga, it can be anything. Like, oh, I'm not doing it the right way. But really, if it's like, our bodies are innately so wise, and it's just a matter of like giving our body the space to have a voice, to communicate with us. Totally. So that's really big. Thank you, Kiara, for sharing.
And like your body knew what it needed. It's like, move this way, like breathe like this. This feels good. Love it.
So good.
Thank you.
Hello.
What's up, Luke?
Greetings.
Connection's a little unstable, but I'll start talking.
Okay.
Cool. Happy 1 year anniversary. I've been with you 1 year. And the expansion that we've been riding in this wave has been pretty profound. Like I was thinking, like when we were first supposed to go to Costa Rica, I'm like, man, I'm in a really good place. You know, I'm like, cool, maybe like not the beach body I wanted, but I was like, cool, whatever, you know, I've been working on that. So, and then it got postponed. I'm like, I couldn't even imagine where I'd be by like May. And like just now, 2 months before is just like incredible. You know, you look at stuff and you think it's going to be this, but it's way more than it could be. So it's fun riding that wave with you. This was an amazing practice. A lot came up. I grew up with 2 older brothers, so it was always a lot of like, you know, like I would have probably liked to have taken ballet class, but that was never an option. Like me growing up in the 90s, you know what I mean? I was just I played soccer and I lifted weights and I did all this stuff, and you know, all the while I was just dancing. And now I'm taking ballet and I want to dance, and I'm like, you know, almost 39 years old, and I'm like, I just want to be a ballerina. And so I would have liked that. You know, maybe a sister would have helped, and now I have sisters, so maybe that's what's helped. So thanks, you've turned me into a ballerina. One thing I had a little aha moment was like when you're hiding from stuff, like when you feel that constriction from every age, you hide, and like often you hide alone. Like all of us have really hide alone, and that's like a pretty scary place to be when you don't have the tools to hide alone, because it's very important to be alone and work on that stuff. But if you're going through all these things and you're growing up, you don't have the tools. So it's often you got to teach it young, and it's just a scary place to be for a lot of people, to be hiding alone. So what you're doing is great. Everybody needs to know how to hide alone and have the tools to really transform yourself from within. So that was a cool aha moment. I feel alive all the time, more and more each day, on and on. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I can't believe we've been doing this for a year.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's like, is it today?
It's the 30th of this
30th.
month is our 1 year anniversary / birthday.
It's crazy to just like, I got emotional when you were talking about it, because it's like how much we've all grown. Like we all have grown together. Like I've seen you, Luke, like come so much fuller into your expression, like with your dance and your just the way you express yourself. Like it's fucking beautiful. And yeah, so I'm grateful to have witnessed it. And
Mary too. Oh my goodness, she's been with us the whole year. So yeah, context for those who haven't been with us a whole year. We launched Light Warriors Rising a year ago on March 30th. So pretty much a year ago. We launched Light Warriors into existence, and Luke and Mary are a couple of our founding members on this call, and Lindsay too. Sorry,
right?
Lindsay's video wasn't on. I'm sorry, I forgot. I was looking at faces, but Lindsay as well is one of our founding members, and it's been really, 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 really spectacular to watch them grow, and like it's been the greatest honor to grow alongside all of you.
And the support that we've received from you guys, like there's been a lot of times where we're like, what are we doing? How is this going to work? And you guys have been so supportive. So thank you to all of you on this call.
Yeah, thank you for being part of this community. Ever expanding, ever evolving, beautiful. Like I seriously don't know another community like this. It's just so real, so authentic. And every time we step into this Zoom room, I just really feel like I feel your presence and I feel your energy, and it's so pure and potent and beautiful, and I'm just touched by it every time. It never gets old. All right, enough from us. We can open up the circle again. If anyone else has something they feel they need to share from their experience, please do.
Hey.
Hi, Chloe.
So thank you for the embodiment practice. A lot came up. One thing I wanted to share before I go into like what I was journaling, it kind of came to mind while Luke was talking. I don't even think you said anything, Luke, that triggered, like that would trigger it, but my brain was like, oh, that thing. During the embodiment, I realized a bunch of the moments that were like stagnant energy or my body was tense or holding, and it would like flash a memory. And every one of the memories were like an adrenaline moment where I froze. Instead of fighting or running, it was like the frozen ones. So it's kind of cool to think that maybe if I go back through my memories of where I froze and like allowed myself to release that energy, it would release some of the tension with it. So I hope that resonates with someone, helps someone else out in the circle or that watches the replay someday. And so when you were calling on us to tap into like the first memory of where we chose to be distant from our emotions or to distract from them, I couldn't think of a specific memory. I could think of like vague blurs of like patterns forming from my childhood. Things like watching TV at a very young age because I couldn't sleep because of the emotions, or I'm the oldest of a divorced child family. And so my parents got divorced when I was 3 and my brother had just been born. So I remember at first I like didn't understand what was happening. So I was behaving well because I was like, I don't know what's happening. Why would I be scared and freaking out? And then as I started to become aware of it, was when everyone started to comment on like how well behaved I was and telling me I was so strong and like rewarding me for that behavior. And that really brought out the realization that I didn't necessarily attempt to hide it at first or to like push it down, but by the time I realized I was going to have emotions about it, they'd already been silenced by being rewarded for not showing them, which was pretty intense. But again, there was never like a specific flashing memory that came back until you said to remember the first time I felt shame around an emotion. And I'm probably gonna cry. I will tear up, but it's okay. That's why we're here. And so I remember, I don't know if it was kindergarten or first grade, and I hope that this is a thing that people do, but the like dances and like tea parties for Mother's Day where your mom comes to school, but my mom didn't come to school. And my grandma came and everyone else's moms were there. And at first I didn't notice it. Like I wasn't aware of it till another kid said something. And then I remember starting to tear up and then everyone starting to laugh because I was crying. And just like pausing and repressing that, and that being one of the like origin points of getting upset about my mom not being there, but not being able to express it because I already in the past repressed it from the divorce and being like the ideal model of like how you're supposed to behave and not act out. And then that happened and like my peers like reinforced that message within me of like, you're not supposed to show that emotion, you're not supposed to be sad, you're not supposed to be afraid of this. And so, and then my grandmother reassured me. She was like, no, it's okay. You don't, not in like a repression way, but in a like grandma who doesn't want her granddaughter to cry way, where she was just like, she started to tear up too. And then we were both about to cry and I was like, I can't make my grandma cry. Because she was clearly upset about it too. I was like, oh no, grandma, don't cry. But so that's kind of healing to like bring to the surface, which is interesting because yesterday I was literally taking notes about the abandonment wound and healing that. So it brought up stuff to work with, which is nice. And then a time where I felt most alive brought back a lot of memories. And because of my childhood, I realized that the first memories that were popping up were actually like 2019, which is pretty interesting. And I couldn't think of like any childhood memories where I didn't feel like a little repressed or like fitting into a mold or a box. And then, so it was all things like Bonnaroo and the first time I ever picked up a hula hoop as an adult and things like that, which are beautiful memories. And actually, I had one memory. The night I got engaged, my vision like disappeared. It was super weird. Everything went black and it was nothing but like gold everywhere. And I was following this like gold, shiny, sprinkly pixie dust everywhere for hours. And I felt really free, but I couldn't, when I was in that like meditation state just now, tap into how I felt. I just remembered feeling free. But then I remembered when I was a kid, my next door neighbor was a girl. We were the only two girls on the block. So normally we had to play like with the boys and do soccer and didn't get to do anything fun. But I remembered how we used to take the little pool rings that you throw into the pool that are kind of heavy, and we would put them around our ankles and swim like mermaids. Oh my God, it's the best.
Totally did that.
Yeah, we did that.
I'm so glad
I played that game too. I was a mermaid.
Guys, I also one time my family thought I was dead because I held my breath for so long while playing mermaid. I was under the water for like easily 3 or 4 minutes. And finally someone jumped in and grabbed me and pulled me out. And I'm like, I was playing mermaid. I was talking to Flounder. And they were like, what are you talking about?
I'm a mermaid. You messed up my game.
Literally, mind over matter there. And then ways that I can allow myself to be more present and experience my emotions. So a lot of like self reassurance, because I had several. I'd started to open up in 2019 and 2020, and then I had a very like aggressive roommate. So being in a house space where I couldn't express openly, I'm like just now breaking down the barriers of that wall that I put up. But I'd like ingrained it in myself so hard to like stay into my little bubble and like remain calm, that it's no longer like I always feel like I have to think before I act, including emotions now. But I came up with a cool idea to put a little henna reminder on my body. So I'm gonna play around with like different henna designs. I'll post in the group chat once I start this weekend. And then like dropping down into the body, some more embodiment practices on a daily basis, and then connecting with my heart intelligence will be really helpful. And what did Mary say it or did Sierra say it? I forgot. Someone mentioned like 5 minutes. It was Mary. That's super helpful. Thank you. I'm definitely going to start that. But the henna tattoo will help me remember to do that.
All the reminders.
Yes,
Yeah.
I also need all the reminders.
That's the thing, because like when you're in the moment, it's like,
Well, it's autopilot.
Yeah.
It's what happens. Like you have to retrain your autopilot, which takes a lot of reminders and repetition. So I love that. I love combining both of your two intentions, commitments together. And I'm honestly like at that 5 minutes, I've been thinking about that, Mary, lately. I had set an intention to do that around, I can't remember, something else. I can't remember. It's been a while. It was a habit I was trying to, like one of those habits I go to cope, you know, instead of like to numb or whatever, instead of like feeling my feelings. It might have been with food actually. So it worked really great though. Like instead of whatever the habit was, like instead of just like going to like eat, which, you know, like I'm all about intuitive eating. Like if you really do have to eat, then go eat. But for me, it was a habit of like, I would go to eat instead of just like sitting and feeling my emotions, like feeling the things. So just like, and I did that, Mary, just like the 5 minutes of breathing. Like I would just, instead of reaching for food or reaching for my phone, whatever it is, I would just close my eyes and breathe and just like ask myself, what is it that I really need right now? Like what's really going on in my internal experience that I'm trying to not have to face? And it's just like, as soon as you sit with it, it dissolves, it just changes. It's like not this heavy thing anymore. Like we make it this heavy thing when we try to like numb it, but like that, just something like Leah said, 5 minutes goes such a long way.
yeah.
So thank you, Chloe, so much for sharing that. I love all of your beautiful childhood breakthroughs. It's really important, you know, to like go back to these memories from our childhood and just start to connect these dots of like, oh, okay, now I understand this is the way I am. Like, this is why I am the way I am, because it started from what I was told when I was a kid. It started from the environment that I grew up in. And, you know, like we have this opportunity to go back and heal. You know, like we can really go back in time and heal those moments when just the little small us didn't know any better. Like we can go back to that version of ourselves and be like, you know, like Leah was just leading us into, call them back home. You know, that's really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening and making me feel heard and seen, everyone.
Of course, of course.
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Skylar, were you reaching to unmute? Could read your mind.
Just one, I wasn't going to share. And then after hearing each of your contributions, thank you so much for opening up to the group. And it actually helped me draw parallels with the 3 questions, well, the 2 questions and then the commitment to self. Because at first I was like, you know, it wasn't, no one memory rose to the surface for me. And maybe you guys can relate to this. Like you can give me a show of hands. It wasn't a memory, but for me, it was a question. And the question that came to mind was, why are you crying?
Mm.
I remember being really young and always, highly sensitive and highly emotional and highly intuitive. And I might just enter a room and cry and not know why. And then I would be asked, why are you crying?
Mm-hmm.
And it was always like, I don't know, like that, it was almost embarrassment. And that came up, right after you asked the question, like if it's a shame moment or an embarrassment moment. And I guess it was embarrassment because it's like, I can't justify this response.
Mm-hmm.
I can't justify this emotion. I can't explain this emotion. This is just the emotion that's flowing through me. And here it is.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess in practice, I learned that at a young age. Because I wouldn't try to make it something it wasn't. Just, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I love that.
So then transitioning into the question, when I feel most alive, or a moment I felt most alive. A few things came to mind, but one in particular was a bungee jump that I did in New Zealand. And everyone was like, you're crazy. Don't do that. Like, what are you thinking? But for me, it was taking a risk. And it was taking a risk, going into the risk, knowing I'd be fully supported, protected, and caught. Which led me to, how am I going to commit to myself? It's going to be taking more risks, going into the risks, knowing I'll be protected, I'll be, I trust myself, I'll be caught at the end of it. Yeah. And like the why are you crying question, it's like living life unapologetically me. I might take a risk that you don't understand, and that's okay. I don't have to justify it. I don't have to justify, my expression of emotion or my action that might not make sense to you or anybody else in the room. That's my advice. Live life unapologetically.
I
Love it.
That. Yes. I think that happens so much where we have to justify our emotions, and like that's where we really get into some like muddy waters and like just start mucking things up for ourselves, when it's like emotions don't always have to be justified. Like the way you described it, Skylar, is so beautiful. Like you walk into a room and you felt something, you felt it, and then an expression happened because of the emotions you were feeling, and there's no need, there's never any need to justify or explain or even fully understand emotions. Like just letting them be what they are is like such a healing experience for so many of us, because so many of us grew up like, why are you crying? Like what's going, instead of just being like, oh, you're crying, like how are you feeling? What are you feeling right now?
What do you need?
It doesn't always need a title either. Like that's what I've learned. And then in working with people, it's like we don't want to have to label that as sadness or as anger, because it's fluid. It's like start out as one thing and then transition into like the deep, deep healing. And then if you identify that with sadness or anger, it's like, it limits you a lot.
Totally. Yes. Totally limiting.
Yes. I think that's where we get into trouble with emotions. It's like, what is this? Like, it has to have a name, it has to have a reason, but like, what if it doesn't? What if it really doesn't, Because we even like will have an emotion. It's like, why do I have it? And if I don't understand, then I'm like fighting against myself. But if we can just like release that and just notice and be like, okay, I'm noticing this, and I'm noticing, like, that's when we become the observer of the experience of the emotion. And it can like be, I love that. I used to do that as a child as well. I think it was because I was so shy that like when a lot of people would be like looking at me or like be around a lot of energy, I'd be like, oh, it's so overwhelming, and just like cry. And I still feel like that sometimes. I still feel like when someone's like, what's an example? Like if I'm like in a conversation, like with my partner, I'm like in a conversation, he's like looking at me waiting to answer. I'm like, I just want to like cry. It's like my response, but like it just is what it is,
Acceptance, the power of acceptance.
Yeah. I just cry. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just crying.
Beautiful souls, thank you so much for this beautiful evening and sharing it with us, sharing your time and energy with us. We really, really honor that and cherish it. and celebrate it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening. If you need to go cry, have a good cry. If you need to go journal some more, please do so. Those journaling prompts were really juicy. So if you need to go back and revisit them, we can post them in the Facebook group as well if you need a reminder to what they were again. Thank you, everybody. Love you. Big love, familia.
Sending love. Oh, see you next month.
Ciao.